Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Fight Maniac Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. Always appreciate all of you watching. As always, if you want to support your boy, all you gotta do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, man. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Beautiful Monday here, start of the week. And let me know what you guys were thinking after this UFC 319 event. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, it's been one of my favorite events of the year. I thought it was great. We had a bunch of finishes and two amazing finishes back-to-back, spinning elbows, obviously from Murphy and for Prates. These guys are savages, but we'll break it down. You guys already know. We'll talk about each fight, and I will go ahead and give you my thoughts and what I think should happen next for some of these fighters, some of the winners, the losers. So overall, I'm a little proud that I went three for five. Yeah, on the main card. On the prelims, the only one that really screwed me was Chase Hooper. I had him winning against Hernandez. Other than that, I also, for the prelims, I think I went like 3 for 3. I didn't bet in all of them. Either way, my main card probably got fucked right at the beginning. So, because of Tim Elliott. Shout out to Tim. I mean, way to pull off a win against a tough contender, Kaya Sakura, who's obviously coming off from Bellator, fought for the belt against Pantoja. No, not Bellator, sorry, Ryzen. Came over from Ryzen. Fought for the belt, took the L. So I thought, you know what? There's no chance this guy loses 2 in a row. But yeah, he got finished by Tim Elliott. Shout out to Tim Elliott. Round 2 submission. And then we had MVP versus Jared Cannonier, man. Let me give you my thoughts, because I'm a huge fan of MVP, okay? However, I don't like at all. I hated how every time he would hurt Jared, and you can tell striking-wise, he was miles ahead. He was miles ahead of Jared. Faster. I mean, Jared was just a punching bag at some point. But, and then until Jared introduced some wrestling, that's where he found some success. But he did it too late. He did it at the third round. Arguably he definitely won the third round. But if you would have wrestled from the beginning, there would have been a different story. You probably would have won the fight by decision. However, what I hated is that MVP, every time he would hurt Jared, instead of following up, instead of going for the kill and try to finish the fight, he would just kind of, one time he kind of just jiggled and danced, and he would do dumb shit like that. Like, it is what it is. I still love to see him fight, and I think there's some great fights for him at middleweight and possibly at welterweight if he wants to still move up and down. I know he's fought at both. But, just when you do shit like that, it pisses me off, and then it reminds me of like Anderson Silva, of how he was goofing too much and ended up getting knocked the fuck out. And I was thinking like, oh my God, what if Jared knocks the fuck out of MVP right now? That would be hilarious. But he ended up pulling off the win via decision. So shout out for him. Even though when he arrived in the UFC, obviously he's this crazy striker coming over from Bellator, crazy knockouts. And we still yet to see even a single, not even a crazy knockout, we still yet to see a knockout from him in the UFC. So, hopefully he gets that pretty soon. So we're going to see. Then, these 2 next fights are amazing, obviously, but we had Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Overall, a good fight. I thought Jeff Neal was doing a really good job, actually, against Prates. The fight only lasted 1 round, but 26 significant strikes for Jeff Neal versus 32 for Prates. Not terrible. He was right there. They were par and par. I thought Prates, if the KO doesn't happen, I think Prates definitely took the first round. But overall, obviously, when it came to it, he had that beautiful spinning elbow and ended up putting Jeff Neal to sleep very horribly. Both Jeff Neal and Aaron Pico got absolutely destroyed, and not in a good way. Like, they were both down for a long time, and it's always sad to see somebody not get up right away. So yeah, Jeff Neal unfortunately got back in the losing column. He was coming off a win against RDA, and before that he lost against Ian Gary. So he's always a guy that's been a little bit up and down. He's always lost against some of the top of the division. Like he lost against who did he lose against? Let me see, Machado, Gary, and then lost against Shafkat. So I mean, look at that. I mean, but other than that, he's been winning a lot. He beat Ponzinibbio, he beat Vicente Luque, then RDA. But he's always been a guy that at the top of the division. He unfortunately he's never really getting a really impressive win or being able to scratch the very top of the division. So, but for Carlos Prates, man, holy shit! I mean, last week I talked about Carlos Prates and how he got exposed a little bit against Ian Gary and how I thought he was rushing a lot for the kill and he wasn't really taking his time. And look, man, I mean, it works out for him, anyways. I think that, now both of these guys, Carlos and Ian Gary, have the win over Jeff Neal. So you can see where the skill is right there, right? But you gotta wonder who beat Jeff Neal more in a stylish fashion. Prates obviously knocked him the hell out. Clean. So let's see. So Jeff Neal was in the welterweight division ranked number 11 and Prates is number 12. Obviously we know Ian Gary is ranked number 6 right now, who just has obviously a win over Prates. So I'm assuming Prates takes that 11th spot or maybe the 10th spot, who right now is Gilbert Burns. But there's some crazy matchups there for Carlos Prates and guys that will entertain the striking. I think he called out. I don't think he didn't call out Usman. Either way, Usman was kind of, he was being called out by Bilal. I saw, the whole week Bilal was there and he did like a Q&A and he was calling out Usman the whole time. So that's interesting. But there's some good matchups there, man, for Carlos. I mean, he has Buckley. That's obviously who's also coming off a loss against Usman, so it'll make sense. Loss for Carlos coming off a loss from Ian Gary, and Buckley coming off a loss against Usman. So now both losing columns have to kind of fight themselves to prove that you're worthy to be back at the top. But yeah, I think that is the one that kind of makes more sense. You also have Covington there, Michael Morales. Either one of these guys, like Covington, Gilbert Burns, it would be a great opportunity for Prates to just get elevated even more, right? Because if you beat somebody with a big name, and Jeff Neal is a pretty big name, but not like Colby Covington, big name, right? Kamaru Usman, so he just has to keep winning, man. I know, I mean, obviously easier said than done, but he's ranked number 10. He's going to be in the top 10 right now of the division. That's not a bad place to be at right now, especially in a division that the belt, it's, a lot of people are kind of counting JDM out after Islam kind of steps in. And, if Carlos is able to get to the top of that division and kind of see, how he matches up against some of the top 3 guys, against JDM, against Bilal, against Sean Brady. This division, and I've said it before, man, welterweight right now, it's absolutely fucking stacked. Absolutely stacked. Every single fighter in the top 10 is an absolute killer. And they're all big names and they have big skill. Usually you get one or the other. But these guys are all they're all well known. They're all fucking insane at what they do. So yeah, I'm excited for for the welterweight division. I think it's one of, if not the most exciting division right now, other than lightweight. But yeah, obviously, I'm pumped for welterweight. So Carlos Prates, man, he has to put down the 6, man. Put down the 6, brother. I know he doesn't train during camp. Although, the fight that he did lose, which by the way, it was here in Kansas City. I saw a video of him. He was at a hotel downtown, not too far from me, actually. I'm not going to say where I live, but I live about 10 minutes from downtown. And the hotel that he was staying at, I think it was real, but it was him outside smoking a cigarette at night. And it was fight week. I think it was like 2 or 3 days before the fight. So kind of crazy, So I don't know if he smokes in camp anymore, but I know right after the fight he lit up a cigarette and he was having his. So no, he deserves it. He deserves it, especially after That fucking crazy knockout, bro. That was absolutely insane. Insane. So shout out to Pratis. Uh, definitely world champion material. Definitely world champion material. But he just has to tighten up his game because, like I said, he did get exposed a little bit against Ian. Just going for the kill too much, being impatient, and just a little bit of inexperience, showing off there. So, yeah, just keep growing, keep learning, and I think he'll be at the top in no time. And guys like this, whenever they have hypes, we always see them kind of jump the queue a little bit. I don't want to say he should because, again, based on the experience he has shown, it'll be better if he has a couple more fights before he gets a really like top guy. But who knows? If a fight drops out and he's available for like a last minute replacement, and it's like a top 3 fight, like he would take it, and I can see him jumping up the queue a little bit and kind of going against a top 3 guy, top 2 guy, and not obviously that would be a contender fight, but now that I think about it, I actually don't think so. So never mind what I said. But the only reason why I say it couldn't happen, it could happen, but the only reason why is because, again, this division is really stacked right now. There's a lot of guys that definitely deserve to be there before him. Someone like a Sean Brady, someone like a Shavkat is injured, but who knows? Maybe once he's 100%, he'll just be able to come back right away. But he has been injured for like the past year, so we really haven't seen much from him. You have Leon Edwards still there. Oh yeah, he called out Leon Edwards. That's actually a great call out. I just remember that. Carlos Prates officially called out Leon Edwards. So Leon is ranked number 4. So that's what I'm telling you. Like, I definitely could see him jumping up the queue and not having to fight. Like if he's number 10, he doesn't have to fight number 9, then number 7, then number 6. Like, you call that number 4, that's a solid spot. That puts you, with the names changes and here and there, that might put you in a top 3 position. So that's definitely a good call for him. I can't believe I didn't remember that before I went in my whole little rant about who he could fight. But anyways, Prates versus Leon, that would be a fantastic fight. And Leon, man, really he has to get out of like this little slump that he's at, because we all know he's super technical. He's a very, very high level, high IQ fighter. But like I said, he's been in a little slump. Obviously lost against Sean Brady, lost against Bilal. So maybe Carlos Prates might be a good fight to kind of bring him back a little bit. Get him motivated for sure. So yeah, that was that fight. Again, fantastic KO from Prates. Shout out. So then we have Leron Murphy versus Aaron Pico. Another fantastic KO. Another fight that on paper could probably fight of the night. And Leron just absolutely delivering a crazy, another second of the night spinning elbow to end Aaron Pico's debut party in the UFC. And I kind of I don't want to say I call this, but I did say, if you look at people making their UFC debut lately that are coming over from other organizations, whether it's Ryzen, whether it's Bellator, they haven't done well. I would love to see a chart or the odds on that, but anybody that's made their debut, like look at Kaya Sakura, look at Pitbull, Aaron Pico, like all these guys that are coming over are just not fully delivering. They come over with hype. Like this sounds crazy, but the last guy that had hype coming over from another organization and actually lived up to the hype a little bit, I think was Michael Chandler. And I personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Chandler. I think he's mad corny, and I think he has like no aura. I think he's kind of goofy a little bit, but he just kind of tries to say the right things. Anyway, I'm not gonna jump into it, but not a huge fan. But he is kind of the last guy that came over from Bellator and kind of delivered. His debut, he knocked out Dan Hooker, which obviously is not easy. I think that was his debut. I'm like 90% sure that was his debut. But, and then obviously he's had some crazy knockouts. He's had some crazy fights, crazy performances. I think a fight of the year against Justin Gaethje. So he's one guy that has absolutely delivered, that we said, okay, you do belong in the UFC, but some of these past couple of guys just haven't, man, just really haven't. And I mean, listen, Aaron wasn't doing bad at all. It's not like he got absolutely dominated for the full round, but pretty early into the round with 3 minutes. I think it was like in 3 minutes. Yeah, he got absolutely flatlined by Leron Murphy. So, shout out. I hope Aaron Pico kind of gets better and gets back in the gym, and if he's able to come back and just kind of get back in the win column, that'll be great. But again, some of these guys just haven't been delivering from other organizations. So for Leron Murphy, dude, I mean, what a fucking way to cement yourself now at the kind of at the top of the division, right? And he did call out Volkanovski, and Murphy was ranked number 6. With this, he might go up a little bit. It's tough to say because Pico wasn't ranked, so it's kind of tough to say where he's going to end up. But, if he doesn't fight Volk, I mean, this because there's kind of nobody else. You have Ivlev. Who he fought? Oh, he beat Sterling. Okay, so he beat Sterling. He beat Allen. He beat Diego Lopez, dude. So, I mean, he might be next, Ivlev, but I know Murphy called out Volk. And again, we all have short-term memory when it comes to these things. We're all high on Murphy right now because he just got a knockout, but who is really deserving of the title is Ivlev right now, for sure. Especially because he has a win over Diego Lopez, who was the previous challenger for the title, right? When Alex won the belt back, he won it against Lopez. So that, to me, puts him in contention. He's ranked number 1. It makes sense. It makes total sense. So Murphy either has to wait to see how that fight plays out. Obviously, we haven't gotten an announcement about Alex defending the belt with anybody. But you're probably looking at about 6 months average minimum. 6 months minimum, I would say. Maybe less, maybe 5. I could see Alex being, I could see Alex Volkanovski. Oh shit, I could see him being in a big card in January, because Dana White alluded to this a little bit at the press conference that they asked him a question about it, but January, because it's going to be the very first card of the new deal with Paramount, they supposedly were going to put on a crazy card, maybe a super fight, maybe a couple of championship fights, but they have to deliver somehow. So I can see Alex Volkanovski being part of that, against Ivlev. And then you're going to have to wait and see if Murphy fights one more. Right now you have Ortega, who I think has a fight booked. Yeah, he has a fight booked against Sterling. That's going to be a good fight. So you have Sterling versus Ortega. You have Allen, I think has nothing booked right now, who's coming off a win. So that could be one. But has a loss against Ivlev, so it makes sense that he, has to get one more and just work to the queue. You got Yair Rodriguez. That could be a good fight. He's coming off a win against Pitbull. And he also holds that win over Brian Ortega. Lost against the champ, obviously. But, yeah, he's got a couple options, but I think he does have also an option of saying, hey, all right, I delivered, against this new guy that everybody had big hype on. I'm going to wait January, see what happens, and then, springtime fight the winner of that fight, which could be either Volkanovski or it could be Ivlev, So that would be, I think that would be a good, smart thing for Murphy to do, depending on, again, if he wants to stay active, if he wants to fight, because he could fight, I think. If not this year, definitely early next year, too. So, but obviously that diminishes his chances of he might lose, and then he's going backwards now instead of forward. Because right now he's in a really good spot. Again, Dana White, the UFC, and all the fan base are high on him right now. So he's in a good spot to say, okay, let me chill out. Let me just see what happens with the belt. Don't rush to get back in there. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting and see what he will do. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Yeah, should I wait for the championship fight and then fight the winner, or should I chill out? And it's when the timing is kind of different because again, Volk fought months ago, right? So I mean, it's kind of if Volk would have fought, let's say Volk fought in the last card, right, recently, then we would have been like, okay, yeah, Murphy Volk all day, every day, right? Because again, we're high on recent memory from both of them, and because the timing would work. Okay, they both just fought. They can take a few weeks off, and then they'll be ready for, either later this year or early next year, and the timing would work. But whenever you have these guys fighting 3-4 months after the championship, whenever you have high contenders, top 3, top 5 guys fighting again 3, 4, 5 months after the champ fought, the timing is odd. The timing doesn't match up occasionally for them to say, all right, well, I should be next because either there's a fight already booked, and again, maybe, you never know. But I could see him also being I just thought about this. I could see him being a backup for Volkanovski and Ivlev. I could see him doing that. So I think that potentially could happen if he's smart. If I was in his position, that's what I would do. Because again, you're in this weird position of, are you the number one contender? Are you not? The number one contender? Are you or are you not? So he's in a good position to say, if I'm not the number one contender, the least thing I could do without fighting somebody else is be the backup. And that has gotten people, places sometimes. That has gotten, because things happen. Obviously, fights fall out, people get injured, weight gets missed. So, yeah, I wouldn't be mad about that. So, but shout out to Murphy, man. Crazy, crazy striking. I know a lot of people, just, I don't know, it's just because he's from the UK and because he's black, but a lot of people just comparing him to Leon Edwards. I like him. I think Murphy's definitely more of an aggressor striker. And obviously he has crazy, crazy KO capabilities right now. So, yeah, definitely for Murphy, that's what's next right now. It's definitely waiting a little bit for see how the scene plays out, and then calling your shots or seeing what happens. But I know he definitely called that Volkanovski. Volkanovski tweeted, which again, it's kind of crazy. Volkanovski tweeted after the fight, like, yeah, let's get it. Like, he's down to fight him. But again, what about Ivlev, right? You gotta wonder, and you have to think that Ivlev is kind of next for the belt. Let me see. Does Ivlev have a? He doesn't have a fight book, right? No, he doesn't. So he just came off of winning against Sterling. So that was in December. I mean, a long time ago. Now you're going on 8-9 months of not fighting. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So you have to stay active as well, but you also have to wait for the belt, right? And then when did Volkanovski fought Diego Lopez? I know it was recent, April. So yeah, not that recent, but yeah, about 4 months ago. So yeah, the timing is aligning itself. Where like if Volk is fighting in December again or in January, he has to make that decision of, okay, who's he gonna be? Who's he gonna be, Mike? So that was the co-main event. Shout out to Murphy for delivering us the second spinning elbow of the night, shortly right after the first one. So shout out. And we've arrived here, ladies and gentlemen. We've arrived to the main event of the evening. Khamzat Chimaev is your new middleweight champion of the world. Obviously this was a long, long time coming. Now, my prediction on this one was off. I kind of, on last video that I uploaded, I said that, okay, DDP might be the stronger, bigger guy. Boy, was I off, dude. Was I absolutely off. First of all, because, I don't know, I mean, on the internet, the heights and all of that, when you Google somebody's height, it's not accurate at all. But, if you look at, I saw like when you look at DDP standing against some of these heavyweights, he looks absolutely massive. But yeah, Khamzat, I kind of misjudged also how big he is and how strong he gotten. Because if you look at Khamzat, a little gay, but if you look at Khamzat's body, again, pause for a second, pause. If you look at his body, when he was even at welterweight, he was obviously much skinnier, obviously, right? But he had no muscle per se. He wasn't that, like ripped. He was in shape, but he wasn't ripped. Now he's kind of ripped. He's bigger. You can tell he's just thicker. He's definitely been working on bulking up to middleweight the right way. I think he was naturally a welterweight, right? He naturally had to be a welterweight, but the weight cut was kind of not working for him. So he said, okay, I mean, I have to bulk up the right way, which could explain also why he took so much time off, because maybe he was just wanting to grow and get bulkier. But bro, I mean, we all know DDP is strong, right? We all know he's really strong. I mean, look at his fights against Strickland. Strickland's a big guy. And Dreyka's, out wrestled him. And look at the fight against Izzy. Izzy's tall, not huge, but he's tall and lengthy and has great takedown defense. But DDP took him the fuck down and submitted him. And now you look at DDP versus Khamzat, bro. It's mind-boggling. It's actually mind-boggling how much or how helpless DDP was on that fight. Absolutely helpless. He couldn't do absolutely nothing, bro. I mean, it says 45 total strikes. I think that's been generous, dude. I think that's been generous. I mean, really, the only striking that would happen would be the first, 10 seconds of each round. They each would throw a couple of kicks, a couple of jabs, and then boom, takedown from Khamzat. And then at the end of the fight, towards the fifth round, there was some striking. DDP actually landed a nice, clean right hand that kind of pushed Khamzat back a little bit. Nothing scary or crazy, but he was there. The striking was there, but it was just Khamzat pressure all day long, dude. And I mean, I saw a stat that he landed the most total strikes ever of a middleweight fight, and that's kind of because he had DDP in a crucifix position for I don't know, fucking 98% of the fight, just crucifix, and was just going like this. He was going to town on DDP's face. They weren't heavy and they weren't really hurting that much. They weren't fight ending threatening, right? But they count as strikes, I guess. So he just by doing this, he landed, I guess, now the record for total strikes. And then he also had the second, I don't know who the first is, but he had the second most control of the fight. I mean, look at this takedowns, 12 takedowns out of 17 attempts. So I mean, and Dreykus landed a takedown for his own too. And it's kind of funny, but at least on paper, the only one with a submission attempt actually was Dreykus. Khamzat had a few here and there, but they weren't enough to be considered like an actual attempt because he couldn't really quite, he took DDP's back a few times and he was looking for the choke, you could tell, but he never quite had it. I mean, DDP also, just to give him his props a little bit, I know he got absolutely dominated, and I feel bad for him, bro, because shit. I mean, I was telling my buddy, I was watching the fight at my buddy's house, and I'm like, dude, this is damn near embarrassing for DDP. I mean, you're letting, this sounds fucking fucked up, but you're letting another man, dude, just grind on you, and you can't do absolutely nothing. You're helpless. You are helpless, bro. I feel bad. I was rooting for DDP. I thought he could actually get it done. I thought if somebody could stuff a takedown for Khamzat and keep it on the feed, it would be DDP, bro. I'm gonna break this down a little bit too, but nobody's gonna beat Khamzat. Let me put that thought out there right now. Nobody right now currently ranked in the middleweight division is gonna beat Khamzat. Okay, I'll come back to that thought. But anyways, DDP again did a decent job at some defense, some hand fighting. Not letting Khamzat get the submission. But that was it, bro. There's really not much more to talk about. We're done. Wrap it up. Let's go. No, there's really not much there from DDP there again because Khamzat just didn't give him the chance, and Khamzat is also a guy that he will not play the game. He doesn't care about getting booed because the fans were in the arena. They were good about this, especially in the main event. But usually when there's a lot of wrestling, there's boos, right? I think it happened in the It was either the Jericho near fight versus MVP, or maybe it was one of the prelims. But there was a lot of wrestling in one of them, and they were booing. But with Khamzat, I think there was some boos, but not that crazy. And because we know that's kind of his game, right? But all the UFC fans are kind of biased. They all want to see knockouts. We all want to. I mean, I personally really wanted to see how this fight would play out on the feet, because Khamzat is a good striker too, man. Khamzat is a great striker. Sat down Gilbert Burns, has some KOs on his record. So definitely a good striker. Part of me wanted to see just how it would play out on the feet, right? But again, Khamzat doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about being like loved or like a favorite. He will take the Khabib approach. Better than Khabib. And I'll talk about it in a second too. But he takes the Khabib approach where he just doesn't care about the booze. He says, you know what, I'm going to wrestle you for fucking 30 minutes and not give a fuck, 25 minutes. And not give a fuck, really. I'm going to just, I don't care if people boo. I don't care if we get stood. I think the ref did stand him up once or twice. I think it was the fourth or the fifth round because there was just no action. He doesn't care. He went right back for the takedown and got it, right? Like, he doesn't care. He just literally doesn't care. He will just grind on you, and that's how he was going to win. So he didn't take the risk, and that's because, again, that's that Khabib approach where why risk it, right? If we know we are this fucking Dagestani, Chechnyan, Russians, Georgians, all those people from Eastern Europe that are just coming over and dominating the wrestling, the grappling department. Why risk it? Why stand up with someone that has a kickboxing background, a boxing background? Like whenever these guys fight these fights and people boo them and we hate on it because they're boring. So why take the risk? And they don't care. Again, they don't care. They're also not fighting. They're fighting for very, very different reasons than most of everybody else, right? They're not fighting for fame. They're not fighting for for the glory of it, of like the luxuries that we see people have, like these fighters like Conor, like Sugar, like John Jones. Well, not John Jones so much, but we see these fighters that have made money with the sport and they live these luxurious lifestyles. They're kind of influencers at some point, right? And they're just they're living the fame life. These guys don't care about that, man. Khamzat doesn't really care. I mean, Khamzat, I would say, is a bit more. He is a bit more active on the socials than like Khabib and all these guys. Like but other than, he doesn't care about being like a celebrity. They don't care. So they don't care about being booed. They just want to win the fight no matter what. I mean, again, that Khabib approach, right? And I said this. I commented on this a couple minutes ago, and I said I would touch on it. But I think when I was watching this, I said, okay, I think Khamzat is way better wrestler than Khabib ever was. That might be a hot take. I don't know. Is that a hot take? Please let me know. I don't know. But if you look at the pressure that he put on DDP, I don't think Khabib ever put pressure like that on anybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. He had pressure, but not for the entire fight. Not for the entirety of the fight. I mean, every single round, Khamzat would shoot in the first 10 seconds, get the takedown, and just go to work and grind on DDP. Mind you, not doing a ton of damage. Again, I know DDP had some marks on his face, but not doing a ton of damage, but still just grinding, and dominating and just having top position. So yeah, that might be a hot take, but is Khamzat Chimaev a much, much better wrestler than Khabib? And I'm talking pound for pound. I know there are different weight classes, obviously, but I mean, Khamzat fought at welterweight at some point, and I think Khabib definitely also could have fought at welterweight. So you never know. That would have been a crazy matchup to dream of at some point, right? Khamzat versus Khabib at welterweight. I think that definitely could have happened. So. But yeah, shout out to Khamzat. He is your brand new middleweight. Well, there was one more point I wanted to talk about. And was that Khamzat right now, I think, beats every single ranked middleweight. That also might be a hot take, but let's look at it. Let's go down the list real quick and see what we're working with here. So obviously we have DDP who just lost. We have Imabov. That might be the toughest fight for a Khamzat. Obviously Imabov is coming with a win against Izzy, former champ, former legend of the sport. So obviously is a good win to have. But I think that right now might be Khamzat's toughest match for sure. He does have a fight booked against Borrallo, Caio Borrallo. That will actually be a fantastic. And it's coming up soon too, September. That's gonna literally give us the answer of who is the next number one contender. I think this is the number one contender fight. Caio Borrallo versus Nasruddin Imabov, September 6th. Was that in where are they gonna be at? They're gonna be in Australia, might. I heard there was an Australia card coming up, right? Oh my god. Fucking UFC is making me buy. Is making me try to buy Fight Pass. I'm just trying to look at the card, bro. Anyways, can't wait for Paramount Plus. Am I right? No, I'm kidding. Here, let me find it. Okay, yeah, it's in. Oh no, it's in France. Oh, nice. Yeah, so we're going to China next week. Wow, China is crazy. I wonder what time it's going to be at. 5 a.m.? Oh, nobody's going to watch that. The Chinese people will, and then they might get billions. Oh, that's when the Ortega fight is too. Oh, this card's not bad, bro. We got Sergey Pavlovich. Anyways, I'm deviating. They're fighting in Paris, France. Imabov versus Borrallo. So that, to me, is a number one contender fight for sure for the middleweight division, and the winner of that should absolutely 100% fight Khamzat Chimaev. And again, this is going back to what I was telling you earlier. Khamzat just fought, and in a couple of weeks, in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, we're gonna have a number one contender fight. The timing is right, guys. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. The timing is working for Imabov or for Borrallo, whoever wins that fight. The timing is right because they'll be able to call out Khamzat if they're smart. That's what they'll do. They call out Khamzat, and now they're gonna be ready in the same time. Now they can obviously their cams, their timelines match. We're like, we could potentially have another middleweight championship fight, December, January, February, maybe, right? But again, the timing is right where the number one contender is fighting soon, very soon. If this fight doesn't happen for another 4 months, then the timing is off, and again, the whole thing happens with like the Leo and Murphy situation. So, the timing is right now for Imabov or for Borrallo. But Imabov, I think, is the toughest opponent that Khamzat can have right now. Borrallo is up there too, but we're gonna have to wait how that fight plays out and see who if any of those guys gets a fantastic performance finish, then obviously we'll know there who will stack up better against Khamzat. But let's go down the list again, bro. Come on, Sean Strickland, nope. Again, I know Strickland was talking shit on Twitter, calling out Khamzat, saying how, oh, that's his wrestling? Oh, I'll take him down all day, every day. Buddy. I actually, you know what? I actually hate Strickland, bro. I actually hate Strickland. He talks such a big game all the time, but when it comes to actually being in a fight and actually getting a win, buddy, Strickland has become a Twitter, how do you call him? Twitter finger type of guy, Twitter warrior. That's what he's become, bro. That's what he's become. Ever since his Izzy win, he has done shit. He hasn't done shit. And he just doesn't fight the way that we kind of expect him to. Kind of this, and the way he says, he told Dricus, I'm going to take your soul. And that sounds great and all, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, oh shit, this guy's going to go for a knockout. Guy does nothing for 5 rounds. Mind you, he got his nose broken. But I think that was the first fight, actually. Or was that the second? That could have been the first. He got his nose broken on the second. But again, he's just a guy that talks so much shit. And now he's obviously talking shit on Khamzat because he's the champ and he just wants the clicks and the views. But bro, Khamzat is not fucking. He's not on the same level. He is levels ahead of Sean Strickland, which is crazy because Strickland is ranked number 2 right now, technically. So, but I don't know. He's just a guy that never really lives up to the hype, never really lives up to the expectation. He does have that win against Costa, so there's that, and people argue that he might have won the first fight against Dricus. I thought it was honestly a coin toss. You could give it to anybody. I would have been fine with the draw too. But yeah, I mean, other than that, again, he's a guy that just doesn't really deliver when it comes to it, right? He talks all this big game, big shit about killing you and taking your soul and just like fuck off, bro, fuck off. But I don't know why he's calling out Khamzat. Obviously, he's calling him out because he probably just wants another title shot. But Sean Strickland is not doing nothing to Khamzat, bro. Who else we got? Adesanya? Nope. Sorry. We'll beat Adesanya. I think is actually a great fight for Khamzat because he's a huge name. He's a legend. And Khamzat, I think, will submit him in the first round. Listen, guys, I'm not... You might think I'm glazing right now. But, dude, come on. After what we witnessed on Saturday night, come on. We have to be on the same page, right? Am I the only one here? Am I the only one? After what we witnessed on Saturday night, you have to all agree with me. You have to, bro. Again, there's DDP, like, pretty convincingly beat Strickland the second time, Adesanya, Whitaker. He has wins over some great guys. And he looked great against Whitaker. He looked great against Izzy. Got the finish, And, bro, I mean, Khamzat just made him look like a child. Again, there's levels to this shit. So if DDP, I usually don't believe in the UFC math, like, oh, DDP beat Izzy, therefore Khamzat beats DDP, he will beat anybody that DDP's ever beat. Like, no, I don't believe that. But it's just hard right now to, based on the skill level that we've seen from this guy's Izzy slowing down, he's not in his prime no more, can't really wrestle, right? Again, Strickland, horrible striking, decent wrestling, but man, it's just none of these guys are hitting a P. So the other one is RDR. He might be also a one that's good. He has some hype right now, obviously coming off of the win against Whitaker. Two big names, Whitaker and who did he fight? Whitaker and fuck, I'm blanking. He's the big guy, the wrestler guy, Bo Nickel. Coming off of 2 impressive wins right now. He might be one that's also up there, and I know his name was brought up a lot in the during the fight. How he could be a contender, but he's coming off some great wins. Kevin Holland, Nickel, Whitaker, Mershart. So he, I think, is one that could potentially also be trouble for Khamzat. But again, we just have Imabov and we have the Ritter right now that would do some damage. And then obviously we have Caio Borralho, who is fighting Imabov. So we're going to go ahead and see who's, also a phenomenal fighter. And I think also a tough fight for Khamzat. And he's a guy that's younger and hungry. How old is he? He's 32, so he's not that young, but he is up and coming. And he's kind of, has some hype right now. He's a really aggressive fighter. Won against Cannonier via decision, so not that impressive there, but he did KO Paul Craig. That's actually huge, But yeah, he's a guy that could definitely be in the mix there. So 3 guys mainly in the mix, and I think that's it. There's nobody else. There's a few guys down below that need some wins. Like Paulo Costa is coming off a big win, but he needs to win a few more. You have Dolidze, you have Allen, Cannonier, who just lost, Whitaker, who already lost to some of these guys at the top. Vettori, who I think is coming up a win, right? He won his last fight. No, he lost. So yeah, that might be tough. Wow, he lost 3 in a row. Yeah, he's lost 3 in a row, dude. That's so tough for Vettori. And then before that, he won one against Zolidze, and again lost again against Whitaker, and then won against Costa, going back. But 3 losses in a row is crazy. He's nowhere near the title right now. He already got dog walked by AZ twice, so you know, we'll see what happens there. But nobody there for Khamzat. As far as DDP goes, a lot of people were saying, well, maybe a rematch, but no, bro. There's absolutely no way there's a rematch. I don't know what else he can do. Like, Khamzat showed us that, like, my whole thing was like, okay, if DDP can stuff a takedown and survive a early, the early storm, that's Khamzat. He can keep it on the feet and bring it to Khamzat. I'm convinced that if DDP stuffs 10 takedowns, Khamzat will attempt 30 takedowns, and eventually, he'll keep trying and trying and trying and trying. He can stuff all the takedowns you want. He's gonna shoot again immediately after. Like, all he has to get is one, bro. All he has to get is that one, and you're back there. But now, the improvement that DDP could make, that he could work on, is just, again, easier said than done. Easier said than done. But, like, just try to get up. That's the one thing that I was saying. Like, he just couldn't really get up. He couldn't explode. He really wasn't using his legs much. You could see, especially as the fight kept going on, whenever he was taken down, he got easily more flatlined, and he was easily more on his back. And you can tell his legs were mostly free all the time. Like, Khamzat had the crucifix and the side mount for a big chunk of the fight, so his legs were mostly free. If you have top full mount position, then now your legs might be compromised. But his legs were mostly free for the most part of that wrestling and the whole fight. So, obviously easier said than done, and I'm not a wrestler, but, like, I just didn't see the will really to get up, the trying to explode. And maybe he was trying to save energy, but, like, buddy, if you're in the 4th round, by the time it might be too late because it might be a little more gas. But if you're in the 3rd, if you're in the 1st round, dude, just explode, bro. That's where you got to rely on your cardio, man, because if he keeps exploding, and still gets taken down, then obviously he's going to be absolutely gassed. So he was trying to probably save energy. But, dude, at some point, you're just going to say, fuck it. Rely on the second, on the second gas tank, the reserve, and just try to explode, man. Try to explode as much as you can and try to get up. And that would have maybe shifted things a little bit. Like, if DDP is able to, like, get up, and Khamzat is like, oh shit, okay, he's getting up, then maybe he plays the striking game a little bit. But if he's doing whatever he wants with you on the ground, he's gonna keep doing that. Obviously, he said, oh, I'm fine here. What? Why risk it? Why should I let you get up? Right? Why risk it for the biscuit? No need, absolutely no need to risk it for the biscuit for Khamzat. But yeah, again, shout out Khamzat, new middleweight champion of the world. I'm excited for Moralo versus Imavev. I think that's definitely going to be a Imavev. Sorry, I said Imavev. Imavev. That's going to be definitely the number 1 contender fight right now. I had a theory that it might be fun to see Izzy versus Costa, the rematch. Obviously not for the belt, but bragging rights, grudge match. I don't know. I thought that'd be great, but that could potentially be a fight that brings both of those guys closer to the title. I mean, if Izzy still has title aspirations, I know Costa does for sure. It's coming off a big win, so that might be a good idea. Sean Strickland's there in the mix too, but again, he's just not. He sucks. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you for sure for watching and sticking with me. Again, if you want to help your boy out, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave me a comment, man. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Let me know if what I said and my breakdowns made sense to you. You agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below. Thank you guys and have a good one. Peace.